Hi YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a video about this little Cattleya species or Laelia species. Some people label this Cattleya and other people label it alaorii, but it's called Laelia or Cattleya alaorii. It's a very tiny little orchid from South America and it's blooming for me right now. As you can see, it has a really pretty pink tone. I have another variety of this species that just has a blue ring around the lip. So it's all white except for a blue ring around the lip. But this one is very, very small, and I love how when you look in there, it kind of looks like these vampire teeth inside, like a horrible animal that's gonna bite you. It's very, very tiny. I'm gonna hold up a little Canadian quarter here just so you can see how small this flower is. It's about the same size as a Canadian quarter. Eh? Anyway, it's very pretty. It has a nice smell. The whole plant fits inside this little tiny cup, and it's just opened for me this week. So now the colors are nice and bright, and yeah, it smells really good when the lights are on. I grow this orchid in lower light conditions, so I keep it on the edge of my grow lights. I can tell that it's good because you can just see these like darker purpley streaks starting on the leaves. That's kind of when you know an orchid is getting kind of near the top end of how much light it can tolerate. It blooms at the end of each new growth, so as each new leaf grows and opens up, there's a little flower bud inside. Unlike a lot of orchids that have a sheath, like a little papery sheath where the bloom comes through, this one, it just has the blooms inside there. And as soon as the leaf kind of opens up, then the flower comes out and stretches out. So that's this little orchid. It likes warm temperatures, but even under my grow lights, it gets a little bit cool in the winter. And I did read somewhere that Laelia orchids do like cooler temperatures than some of the other Cattleyas, but actually I grow them all together and they seem to like, you know, in the winter, go down about 8 to 10 degrees is the lowest that it gets in my little grow room. I let this orchid dry out in between waterings, so I let it get really dry and then I soak it. So right now it's soaked. It grows in moss. I like these little clear cups because I can see what's going on with the roots. And like I said, it blooms at the end of each new growth, so it doesn't have a bloom season like some orchids do. Some bloom in the spring, some bloom in the fall. This one just blooms whenever the new leaf opens up, so it can bloom a couple times a year. My other variety with the blue lip, I think it's called Forma orlata. It bloomed for me in the fall, so this one is blooming in the spring. And again, look at those. It looks like fangs inside the lip. It's very cool. I didn't like this orchid when I first saw it, but I love it now. It's one of my favorite ones. This orchid has been used in a lot of hybridizing because it's so tiny, so it makes orchids smaller. I don't know if you saw my video where I showed everyone my Cattleya schroederi that was starting to throw out buds in the spring. But they crossed this Laelia alaorii with Cattleya schroederi, and then they got this hybrid that's blooming for me right now. So this one is called Cattleya Memoria Alberto Wenzel, and like I said, it's a cross between Cattleya or Laelia alaorii and Cattleya schroederi. And it's a beautiful orchid. I love the color. It's like this pinky purple light tone with this really great mango color in the lip. And I love seeing that inside. And just as a size comparison, so you can see them side by side. When you put them side by side, Laelia alaorii is much smaller. I mean, they're both beautiful, but you know, the blooms are much smaller. Cattleya schroederi is a much bigger orchid, so it's shrunk down. This is a really nice plant. It blooms for me a couple times a year. I love the shape of the leaves. They kind of like overlap each other. I moved it to a little bit of a brighter spot because you can see it had all these growths with these long leaves, but no blooms. So even though it had a couple new leaves a year, it had no blooms. But now you can see I kind of moved it. Maybe it's the light's a little bit too strong because again, you can see that dark veining and the purpley flesh. That's a sign that the orchid is getting the maximum, kind of near the maximum amount of light that it needs. But anyway, it bloomed. It's last year bloomed with just one flower, and this year I guess I got it right and it got two. I grow this in a clay pot with sphagnum moss, and I again let it dry out. So right now it's dry as a bone, very crispy. And then I'll run it under the tap and soak the moss, and then again let it dry out so it gets this wet dry. And most orchids really like this kind of watering where they go from wet to dry. You can tell if an orchid is getting too much or too little water by the pseudobulbs, and you can see here they're great. They're nice and plump. Some of them are a little wrinkly, but this is old. And then anyway, once I water it, they'll plump right back up. So again, the light, this is a lower light orchid. I keep it on the edge of my grow lights, and I kind of keep it shaded as much as I can. But again, you can see this one leaf, it got a lot of light, so it's much darker purple and much smaller in size. It's like half the size of some of the other leaves. But at least it bloomed. So I would like to get it somewhere a happy medium where the leaves are a little bit longer, less purpley, but still blooming. This orchid, unlike Cattleya schroederi, which blooms in the spring, this orchid blooms every time a new growth finishes. So again, it has like a leaf that's curled up, it's kind of folded in half, and inside are the buds. So as soon as this leaf flattens out, the buds are just there. You can see like a tiny little remnant of a sheath, but it doesn't have a flower sheath like Cattleya schroederi. So I like a lot of these little hybrids for exactly that reason, that they bloom a couple times a year. They're quite easy to grow. They don't need a lot of light. You can grow them on a windowsill where they get, you know, a couple hours of morning sun, and they'll bloom just fine for you. They're really easy to take care of. They're kind of like a cactus. You can neglect them. You don't need to fuss around with them. And you get a beautiful display of blooms a couple times a year. It likes warmer temperatures as well, but like I said, they do get kind of cool. I grow these both kind of the same, so. Anyway, that's it for these little guys. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you liked the video, and I hope you enjoyed seeing these interesting little blooms and seeing how, you know, hybridizers can create these wonderful crosses that have traits from both of the parents. In this case, Cattleya schroederi has these beautiful pink blooms with that mango color in the lip, and Laelia alaorii gave it the nice small size. I wonder if it has that fang thing in the lip. Let's see if I can focus. Yes, it does have a little bit on the top, but not those little teeth at the bottom like Laelia alaorii. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. Hope you liked this video. Take care.